Hey there, Brian D'Amico here from VectorVest, and today we're going to take a look at how I restarted my options income system. All right, so 2 months ago, I made an important decision in my life, and that was to stop treating my options income trading as a hobby. And you know what a hobby is like. When something is a hobby for you, it's something that you only do when you have time to do it, right? Either when you have time to do it or even the energy to do it. And sometimes it means you never do it, right? So what I decided was I decided to become serious about it. I need to become serious about my options income system. So that's what I did. I became serious about it. So today, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start by showing you the results of all of my efforts, and then we'll take a look at the trades. All right. So I'm going to show you we're going to look at the results, and then I'm going to show you 5 actions that I took to get those results. And then we're going to take a look at some of the trades that I did. All right. So first off, let's talk about the results. So I had 10 winners out of 11 trades. Now, if you do the math, that's a little over a 90% win rate. That's a little higher than what you would typically see over the course of, let's say, a year. But I'm not going to complain. I'm going to take the 90%. But just know that, and I know going forward, 90% is probably going to be on the high end, and I'm looking to be a little over 80% in the long term. In addition to the winning trades, my total portfolio gained 9.9% during those 2 months. All right, so I was happy about that. And one of the things that I loved was that I was able to get it all accomplished in just about 60 minutes per week. All right, so I'll talk more about that dedicated time of those 60 minutes. But anything more than the 60 minutes was really me just looking at my portfolio out of curiosity, just like, oh, what's the market doing? What are the trades doing? But I was able to accomplish all the trading and analysis in 60 minutes a week. All right, so not a lot of time. All right. On average, the trades only lasted 7 days. All right, which I also loved because it kept me active, right? So I'm in a trade, I'm out within about 7 days. And so it's good to have something that keeps you active, engaged in the market. Each week, I also had available funds, right? So by having trades that close in about a week, it's freeing up capital for new opportunities. So that's another part that I liked about it. Now, the other thing is, just because the trades were short in duration, right, a 7-day trade, it doesn't mean you are trading aggressively or speculatively. I was trading high quality stocks. Right? So what does it mean to be a high quality stock? Well, here are the stocks that I traded, right? I put them all into a watch list. So at VectorVest, you're able to create a watch list, and I just put all the stocks that I traded into a watch list. And at VectorVest, we actually calculate indicators. And if I get my laser pointer out here, there we go. We calculate indicators such as RV, which is relative value, and RS, which stands for relative safety. And without getting into all the details of those indicators and what goes into them, these indicators look at the fundamentals of a company, and they are on a 0 to 2 scale. And look at these values here. Right? They're all well above 1. So we're talking about some really good companies. And you could even see that over here. If you look at the earnings growth rate, you look at the earnings per share. I mean, both of those are showing strong companies. All right. So we'll talk more about how to get to these stocks a little bit later on. But just know, I'm feeling good about the system. The results where I'm trading good stocks that I feel comfortable with. And the other thing I loved about these trades is that I was taking on very limited risk. Now, some people, and you might be one of them, you think, oh, this is an options system, there must be a lot of risk involved. And the answer is no. It's with any trading system, no matter what trading system you do, it's all in how you do it, right? So on average, each trade, I only risked about 1% of my total portfolio, right? Some was just a smidge higher, some was a little bit lower, but on average, about 1%, right? So if you got something wrong, you're able to live to fight another day. So let's look at the results, right? Now, I track the results on a spreadsheet, and here's just part of that spreadsheet. We'll actually look at the full spreadsheet in a little bit. So let me highlight a couple of things. So first off was the 9.9% gain that we looked at earlier. Now, I dedicated a portion of my account because I was restarting this. So I said, all right, I'm going to take a portion of my account and dedicate it to this system. So I dedicated $10,000 to getting back into this option income system. So that meant that I was only trading about one contract. All right. And the gains, as you can see over here, were on average $100 a gain. And if I lost, I was typically looking to lose about 100, but with an 80%, in my case, 90% success rate, that works out over time very nicely. But a great thing about this is that it scales. So if I had wanted to dedicate more, like if I had wanted to dedicate $20,000 to this, these numbers would just be double. All right. If I had 100,000, these numbers would be 10 times this. All right. So if you had a $100,000 account and did the exact same things, we'd be looking at $9,000, right? If you had a $20,000 account, it'd be about $2,000. All right. So it is scalable. All right. I just happen to start with $10,000 and use that in my restarting system. All right. Now you might be wondering, all right, why did I need to restart? And that is a totally fair question because you might think, oh, don't you work at VectorVest? I mean, shouldn't you be doing all of these trades all of the time? And that is a totally fair question. And my answer is simply, just like with everybody, life and work get in the way. I get busy at work. We've got a lot of things going on here at VectorVest all the time, and just get busy, right? And things don't happen, right? So you just get busy with work, get busy with life, and it just doesn't happen. And other reasons why I wanted to restart was, I'm working alongside Ron Wheeler. I work closely with Ron Wheeler. He's one of the top option traders around. And, working with him, I hear him talking about what he's doing with his coaching clients. And, for example, the last 2 years, he's making over 50% each year for the last 2 years. Plus, we hear stories from our clients. We talk to our clients a lot and we hear their stories. Like, Bruce, we just highlighted a few weeks ago, and Bruce was the gentleman who took $100,000 and was up to almost $500,000 over 3.5 years following these systems. But people like Mike and Brian and John, just to name a few, right? So you hear about all these things, and I hear about all these things, and just like with everybody else out there, you have that feeling of missing out, right? You have that fear of missing out, and seeing all these things, it's like, all right, I knew I wasn't growing my account as fast as I could be. So it was like a wake-up call. Right? It was the wake-up call that I needed to get in there and do something about it. So, here's what I did about it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the 5 action steps that I took to restart my options income system. Then we'll take a close look at some of the trades that I took so that you can see what's involved. All right, so let's look at these 5 action steps. So action step number 1 was that I dedicated time to do it. Right? You know that saying, if it's not scheduled, it doesn't happen. Well, that's totally true. So I knew our coaching group met every Monday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. All right. So what I did is I blocked off that time every week to watch, learn, and trade. All right. So I dedicated that time to do it. All right. Action step number 2 was I had to dedicate funds, and dedicating funds was important, right? For a few reasons. Right. First, it was a subconscious way of telling myself that I was taking it seriously because I was, dedicated funds, and hey, I'm taking it seriously. Second, it allowed me to properly calculate risk for each trade that I did, right? Without knowing how much you're dedicating, you don't know how much money you have at risk. So basically, by dedicating funds, I was able to know how many option contracts I would trade. And third, I was able to track my return on investment. All right. If you don't have an investment, you don't know how you're doing. So it enabled me to do all those 3 things. Action step number 3 was I followed a system. All right. Now, if you're just starting out, the important parts of a system are that it's rules based, right? It's got rules associated with it, not just like something that you're making up as you go. There's got to be rules that you're following, and it has to have a track record of working. I was fortunate because I already knew of a rules-based system We happen to have one here at VectorVest. It's called the Options Paycheck Income System. We created that back in 2016, and it's got a strong track record based on our own trading of it and all the testimonials and case studies that we've received over the years. All right, so I'm actually going to come back to this system in a little bit when we look at the trades that I had placed. All right. Action item number 4, right? Action step number 4 was I watched an expert. All right, watching an expert was an important part for me because I wanted to follow along, click by click, with an expert to help build my muscle memory, right? So by watching him do it, go through the process, and I knew the process, I was able to do it on my computer too while he did it, and it's building that muscle memory so that I could do it on my own, like teaching me how to fish. Again, I was fortunate because here at VectorVest, we have one of the best options traders in the country, probably the world, right? His name is Ron Wheeler, and he coaches his clients every Monday at 2 o'clock. And so I decided to join those sessions and watch as he went through the paycheck system, right? And he was finding and selecting and setting up his trades. So again, I was able to follow along right on my computer. And one of the cool things was I was able to see if I could come up with the same results. So I was trying to do it before he did it to see if I could come up with the same results that he did and place my trades during that time, right? Action item number 4 was that I tracked my results, right? Tracking the results was important for several reasons. It allowed me to make sure that each trade was in line with the rules. So on the spreadsheet, I was making sure I was following the rules. I was also able to take notes on each trade, okay? Because a couple of times, as I showed, as I'll show you in a little bit, a couple of times I closed a trade early, which went against a rule. So I was able to document what I did and why I did it, and what would have happened had I stuck with the rules. Right? So if you're not tracking these things, you're never going to know. Right? So keeping track of the performance also helps you stick with a system. Right? And that's an important thing. You know, it's recommended that when you start a system and you're doing a system, you give it at least a year. You know, sticking with it. And by tracking the trades, I used a spreadsheet. By tracking your trades, it helps you stick with it. Because if you don't, we've all been there. You know, you get maybe like 1 or 2 losing trades, and you're like, oh, forget about it. You know, let me move on to the next system. All right, tracking it, it helps you stick with it throughout and give it that full year. All right, so let's look at some trades. All right, let's go through a few of them. It all starts with the system, right? The system is what helps us stack probability in our favor, okay? It turns what, you know, would typically be like a 60% probability of success. That's the base, right? Using this system that you see here is going to turn that into something that would typically be around like an 80%, or in my case, 90%. But I'm looking at probably long-term, it'll be around the 80%. Now, at the top, you see there is market direction. That is first and foremost on any system. All right, so market direction. Now, here at VectorVest, I put a screen here. This is our market timing graph. The signal that we use in the options paycheck system is built off of the DEW market timing signal. That is a nice intermediate signal that we have here at VectorVest. It uses a few technical indicators on our VectorVest composite. I won't get into all the rules in this video, but if you look here, you can see the green arrows represent when there's an up, a red arrow when it's a down signal. Our paycheck rules actually make it even more prudent than this by having a couple things that we look for as far as confirmation of a signal. But in general, these are the base. And if you think, hey, if I did nothing but did, you know, bearish trades when we have a down and bullish trades when we have an up and so on, you're going to be well ahead of the game. All right. So that's what we do. So if you look here, the examples I'm going to show you occurred during this period here, you know, when we had a DEW up. And, you know, you got to take advantage of those times. When you're in an uptrend, that's when you're going to start to see those 90% winners. So that's what we started with. Next up is, I told you, we look for high quality stocks. And without getting into, you know, the click by clicks, the base of what we do, and people sometimes don't believe me when I say this, is the same techniques that you use to find really good stocks for things like when we teach our successful investing course or retirement course, when you're looking for nice prudent stocks, those same skills flow through to your option income trading. All right. So we start off as a base with some of the searches that are in our prudent folder. Right. That's a great base. Some of the searches in here that we love are things like ruler stocks and safe and sound. Those are some really good searches that find really good companies. And we also look at searches in our retirement folder. Notice I didn't say we went to our aggressive folder or our speculative folder. In retirement, we're looking at things like vector plus vector, premier growth. And those are searches that we use as a base for our option income system. And what we do is, basically you could run those searches and, compile one big watch list, which is in essence kind of what we do. We put them into into one big group, and we send them over to a tool we call Options Pro, which allows us to do some further analysis on some of the options criteria. But you could use VectorVest and kind of put them all into one watch list. If you need help, give our team a call. They can show you how to do that. So doing this, running those types of searches is what allowed me to find those stocks that I showed you earlier. So let's look at some of those trades. And I'm going to walk you through, as best I can, some of the trades. This first one that we're going to look at is FedEx. All right, so FedEx, great company, had met the criteria of those searches. So what I've highlighted here on the screen are a few talking points to help me explain the trade to you. So you can see here that the first thing we're going to look at is the entry date. The entry date was right here. So it was a nice stock. It was a good stock in an uptrend, pulled back, and it was resuming the uptrend. So that was the entry date right there. All right. Now down here, you'll see a thing that's labeled short strike. Right. So I want you to think exit. That short strike is if the price hits that line, that is your exit. As long as it stays above that line, you're still in the trade, and you could still be profitable. Even if it goes sideways, you could still be profitable. All right, but just think that's your exit. Now, there's also another strike, a long strike, which is we call your insurance leg. For more detail on this trade, we have other videos which teach this trade. Is called a credit spread. You can watch those videos. We also have a webinar on credit spreads coming up. We have a course, which I've mentioned a couple of times. It's our options Paycheck course. If you wanted to take that, it teaches this trade in great detail. So this was our entry date. Down here, I made this line this long because this is our expiration. Right? So now we never hold these trades until the expiration date of the option, just to be clear. We never do that. All right, it'll always be closed prior to expiration, right? Since you are an option seller, when you're selling an option, having these short expirations like this, typically, by the way, our expirations are about a month away, right? Since you're selling, time decay is going to work in your favor with these short expirations. Now, this trade in particular actually closed 8 calendar days later, right? Here's the exit. That's when our profit target was hit, right? Now, if you look here, the stock only went up one day, then pulled back for 3 days, and then went up for 2, and you're already out of the trade at full profits, right? Your profit target was hit. On this trade, the stock only went up 4%, and I made 14% on the total amount that was risked, all right? And I was looking at my spreadsheet. The good thing, and another good reason for tracking it on a spreadsheet is that is what was typical on all of the winning trades. It ended up being a 14% gain on those trades. And if you lose, you're typically going to lose the 14%. But with on the trades that I had done, that was what I had averaged. All right. So that's the FedEx trade a little bit. Let's look at a couple more to give you some more idea of how these trades are set up. Here's Nphase. If you've been around VectorVest for any length of time, this stock probably looks familiar. It's been in many a stock trader's portfolio. And so Nphase, it's one of our top stocks. It's all at the top of our stock viewer quite often. And this graph actually looks a lot better than the FedEx one, because it actually was hitting a high on the day we entered. All right, so it was a good stock, beautiful uptrend. Now you look down here and you see that short strike, and you say, well, it's right below that candle. And yeah, it was a little bit more aggressive, but that's the benefit of hearing a coach talk you through it, like Ron Wheeler. And he was explaining, hey, this strike is below that low. It's below the prior candle. It's near the low of the one before. Plus, when setting up the trade, it's like, wow, this has got such a great risk to reward on this trade while still giving you some room to be wrong. In fact, on this trade, I only risked 0.7% of my account to place this trade. All right, so 0.7%, that's it, right, if it went against me. Now, this trade, just 3 days later, I exited this trade with almost max profit. All right, so with almost max profit, I do want to explain this a little bit, because guess what? I broke the rules on this one. So it's 3 days later. It happened to be Christmas Eve, and it was right before a long weekend. I said, you know what? I'm almost at profits, not quite there. I'm going to exit this trade. In fact, the morning of that day, my broker flashed that it was at my full profit, but it didn't close. And the benefit of tracking on the spreadsheet, I realized that I was off by a couple of pennies on what I had entered. So by closing it there, I didn't want to hold it through the long weekend, even though had I held it, you can see it popped up at open the next, that following Monday. It would have probably hit the profits that day. But if it didn't, I mean, look at this roller coaster. It would have been a couple of days later back to where I bought it. And then you got like, oh, what's going to happen now? And then it pops up. But I just want to explain that one. The benefit of keeping notes is you can see why you broke the rules and what would have happened if you didn't break the rules. All right, so let's look at just one more. This one is Apple. I think we're all familiar with Apple. Again, good fundamentally sound stock. The uptrend had resumed, but it was being a little bit aggressive. Look at this entry is right near prior resistance. And we had talked about that quite a bit in the coaching class. Ron brought that up and he said, hey, this is near resistance, but he was willing to take it anyway because the reward on the trade was actually greater than the risk. And you had all this room, like from here down here's that short strike. So it was well below, the few candles leading up to that. So you had a lot of room to be wrong. It just so happens that this one bounced off a resistance, came back, tagged that short strike. That was the exit. That's your line in the sand. You close that trade and you walk away. Now, just because the stock lingered and then popped over here doesn't mean you should second guess the decision to close out. All right. Not all trades are going to work out. So by tracking this, I might say, all right, well, maybe next time I won't take trades that are right near resistance. All right, I'll look for another opportunity. All right. So again, not all trades are going to work out, but if you're following a proven system, on average, like 80% of them will. All right. And in fact, I promised you I'd show you this spreadsheet. All right, so I tried to fit it all on one screen so that you can see it. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. You can see all the ticker symbols that I showed you earlier, the entry dates and what kind of trade they were. And you can see I only did one contract on virtually all of them. But look here, this is the portfolio risk. For the total portfolio, the first couple were near 2%, which is on the higher end. But you can see 0.8, 1.3, 0.7, 0.7. So you're not taking a lot of risk, or I should say I didn't take a lot of risk on these trades. And you could totally scale this, that instead of doing one contract, you could have done 10 contracts. And then instead of making 140, if I did that, I would have made 1,400. All right. So, and then you could see over here the number of days in the trade. All right. So, I mean, hopefully you could see, learning to trade options is an important tool to have in your toolbox. You've got to learn to trade options. At least that's what we feel here at VectorVest. We feel you've got to learn to trade options if you want to uncover the full potential of your portfolio. And we highly recommend that you do this. All right. So if you are ready, if that's something that you want to do and you want to learn how to use options to generate income, the best course available anywhere, right, is our options paycheck course. All right. As it says there, in a matter of 7 weeks, right, you're going to have a complete income system set up in your portfolio using options. So you're going to receive the full recorded course. As soon as you sign up, you get the full course. You can go through it right away. right? You can do it all in a weekend if you wanted to. Plus, you're going to get Ron Wheeler teaching it to you live over the course of 7 weeks. All right, he's going to be guiding you through it. As an added bonus, in addition to that step-by-step training course, you'll also be able to attend Ron's live coaching sessions each Monday, just like I do. All right, so you could be there with me. All right, so you'll be able to watch an expert find, select, and set up his option trades each week for the 7 weeks of the course. This is such a huge bonus, and you can see how it impacted me over these last couple of months. All right. So go to optionspaycheck.com for more information. The price is only $995 right now. We offer a full money back guarantee. The price will increase next week and registration will close shortly after that. This really is, speaking from the heart here, the best training course on options if you want to generate income. Flat out, it's the best. All right. So if you're serious about either starting or restarting, like I did, your own options income system, go to www.optionspaycheck.com for more information and get yourself registered. And thank you very much for watching. And I do wish you the best of success in your investing. Take care.